Good morning and hello. Welcome to the Women in Sustainability Leadership Program. I'm Corinne Hafel, and I'm the director with the U.S. Green Building Council's Market Transformation and Development team. And today I have the pleasure of welcoming all of you as your virtual MC. On behalf of today's hosts, Evolution Marketing, WSBC's Women in Sustainability, and the U.S. Green Building Council, I welcome you to the 2023 International Women's Day celebration. This is the sixth year that our trio of organizations have collaborated on this important programming, and we are thrilled to welcome some new partners this year, our new co-hosts Venture Forward and Verte Collaborative, along with our promotional partner, Be Local Wisconsin. Together, we thank you for making the time to be here with us today. We're very pleased to be able to welcome all of those who have been with us for a long time now, as well as those who are new to the discussion. Next slide, please. Today's program starts with a brief remarks from our co-hosts before we welcome our featured speaker, Nakielski, who will share her observations and experience in navigating barriers to equity. Through Monica's presentation, the accompanying fireside chat, and through the breakout sessions, we will be addressing the 2023 International Women's Day theme, Embrace Equity. This campaign theme is intended to get the world talking about why equal opportunities are not enough. People start from different places, so true inclusion and belonging require equitable action. We can all challenge gender stereotypes, call out discrimination, draw attention to bias, and seek out inclusion. Collective activism is what drives change. From grassroots action to wide-scale momentum, we can all embrace and drive equity. And when the program concludes today at 1 p.m., we hope that you leave feeling informed and empowered to take action. Now, just a reminder, we are recording today, and we will be sending access to that as well as the resources that we are going to be including in today's chat, plus a plethora of other things. Now, while we're asking you to mute during the presentation, we do encourage you to fully engage in the Everyone chat feed to share thoughts about the program. And if anyone wants to stick around after we formally adjourn, we're going to keep the Zoom live for about 20 extra minutes to allow for more conversation. Next slide. Now, as I mentioned, my role is with the U.S. Green Building Council, and I serve Wisconsin and our West, North, Central regional communities. Our mission is to transform the way buildings and communities are designed, built, and operated, enabling an environmentally and socially responsible, healthy, and prosperous environment that improves the quality of life for all. We do many things to achieve our mission, and one of my favorites is the Women in Green program. This is a worldwide leadership platform creating space for women who are shifting the narrative on empowerment, access, and impact. As old paradigms are challenged and a new roadmap emerges that's shaking up how we measure progress, who defines those indicators, and what and whom is missing from the leadership table, as we are unfailingly working to raise the quality of life for all. Next slide. Now, taking control of your own narrative is an incredibly powerful act, and it is the driving thought behind USGBC's Women in Green 2023 theme, self-titled. Women are represented across the full spectrum of professional careers in the buildings industry. With career goals and life aspirations, we define ourselves without gendered limits. At Women in Green, we unapologetically celebrate sharing our experiences and honoring our impact as professionals. We acknowledge that the past, while defining ourselves and the future, and all without altering who we are or asking permission. The Women in Green platform is to gather and learn from others across fields and disciplines, generations, and job titles. And we hope that you join us throughout 2023 as we together write or rewrite our stories. Next slide. With that said, I am thrilled to share the microphone with some incredible leaders today, brought together by this outstanding planning committee that includes Lisa Giesenbauer, Kimberly Flood, and Jessie Servi-Ortiz. I'm about to pass the microphone to Jessie, but I just want to take a moment to personally thank each of these women for their leadership, mentorship, and friendship. Each of them brings strength and passion to their sustainability work, and I'm a better person thanks to my relationships with them. I will also say that they have been fantastic allies to me in the last 2 weeks, in which I finally succumbed to COVID and have been a bit out of pocket as we prepped for this presentation. I thank them for their love and their support and making sure that all of the pieces and parts of not only this program and me stayed together. So thank you, ladies. With that said, allow me to introduce Jessie. She's the managing director of the Wisconsin Sustainable Business Council, and she co-chairs the Wisconsin Women in Sustainability Group. Jessie?
Thank you so much, Corinne. It's always a pleasure to be here with these amazing co-collaborators and to share with the larger community across Wisconsin and beyond. So next slide, Kimberly. I just wanted to take a moment and introduce our Women in Sustainability Group to those of you who might not be aware of it. We host Women in Sustainability circles every spring. And so I'm going to share a little bit more detail about this later in the program, but just for those of you who might not be able to stay for the whole thing, I wanted to make sure you had the information up front and know that these circles will be coming. The applications are open currently and will be open through March. So what the circles are is a group of women focusing on a specific topic. We meet for about 6 to 8 weeks, about 30 minutes each week to expand our network, to connect, to focus on the challenges and successes that we have currently going on in our lives, and just expand our network and foster connection in this broader group on these topics and issues. So we invite you to join us for our Women in Sustainability circles this year. I'll go ahead and drop the link in the chat. And like I said, I'll give a little more detail as we go further on. So next slide. Next up, we get to introduce Lisa Giesenbauer, who actually was my co-founder in Women in Sustainability. So it's great to always be here with you, Lisa.
Oh, it's so nice to be here with you, Jessie and Corinne and Kimberly. I just have to do a shout out to thank you to everybody who helped make today possible. It really does take a community to put an event on like this. And as a business owner, I'm very grateful for the nonprofits who have partnered with us today to help make today possible. So welcome everyone, International Women's Day 2023. My name is Lisa Giesenbauer. My pronouns are she and her, and I am the president of Evolution Marketing, a Wisconsin-based sustainability consulting and marketing communications firm that works at the intersectional space of sustainability, governance, operations, HR, and Marcom. Our offices are located on the ancestral lands of the Potawatomi, Kickapoo, and Ho-Chunk nations here in what is currently called Neshota, Wisconsin. My company, Evolution Marketing, is also a certified B Corporation. And you might say, well, what is that? So certified B Corporations, or B Corps, as we like to say, are companies that are verified by B Lab to meet high standards of social and environmental performance, accountability, and transparency. B Corps are legally committed to bringing benefit not just to shareholders, but to all stakeholders. So that's workers, consumers, the community, and the environment. So simply put, certified B Corps and our regional partners, Be Local Wisconsin, who's joining us today, are all working to realize the shared vision of an inclusive, equitable, and regenerative economy that works for all. We understand that in order to address the extreme inequalities which do exist in our society, the way business has traditionally been done needs to change. Those of us who are working at the more than 6,000 certified B Corps operating in 89 countries, covering 161 different industries, and employing over 5,500 workers are all part of a bigger movement of people using business as a force for good. We're building a B Corp movement to change our economic system. And to do so, we must change the rules of the game. B Lab created standards, policies. I lost my spot in the notes, sorry. B Lab has created standards, policies, programs, and tools that have helped to shift the behaviors, culture, and standards, structural underpinnings of capitalism. We mobilize the B Corp community towards collective action to address society's most challenging and critical issues. So the quote that you see before you is a really great one that it's so sad. This is 2023, and this is still true today, that extreme inequalities are the defining issue of our time. And these rising inequalities are undercutting the development progress, frustrating poverty eradication, and producing social and political and economic instability. And so I bring this to your attention because those of us who are working in the B Corp movement are saying we know this problem is real, and we are creating policies, processes, and programs to help address that. And so that's why it's really important to have programming like today that dives into looking at and unpacking how we can all be an ally and work together. Kimberly, next slide, please. So many of you have heard about or are familiar with what are called the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. These goals were created in 2015, and they came about as literally a plan from the business community to the world to help address what's called the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. And these 17 goals are interconnected and interdependent. And they are not only for communities and nonprofits, but they're for businesses, and businesses were at the table to help create these goals. Two of these goals are we're going to be focusing on today. Goal number 5, gender equity, and goal number 10, reduce inequalities. Those are the goals that are going to underpin the program that we're going to go through today. But I want you to realize we can't address gender equity or gender inequality or reduce inequalities if we don't also address poverty, health and well-being, waste. All of these things are interconnected together. And I think that's how we as women working in the sustainability field or in the green building field really can help create this conversation and bring it back to our workforce and our communities and our businesses, because we see things from this holistic lens. Next slide, please. So here's a great article that came out last year from Forbes. And I think it's really interesting. And you might say, well, why are we talking about this today? Again, as women in sustainability and in the green building space, employee wellness is tied to literally everything that we're doing on a daily basis. Now you might say, well, Lisa, I'm not an HR operations person, but if we look at these 7 pillars that are listed here, and again, this is based on data post-COVID in the workplace. So according to these 7 pillars, this is what the future workforce wants. This is what they want today and in the future. So it's purpose, emotional well-being, community, meaning do you have a community that you're part of, both within the workplace and outside the workplace? How does your company allow you to engage with your community? Social, that's social sustainability. That's belonging. Do you feel like you belong to your company? Financial isn't literally just about, are you getting paid a good wage, but are you making a living wage? Are you able to support the things that are important to you in your day-to-day life? In a lot of cases, it's not so much about finance. It might be about additional vacation time or flexibility. Career, is there a career path? Or is there on-the-job training, or are there opportunities for you to evolve within your chosen career or profession? And the last thing is physical. And I want to just take a brief moment to unpack what that means. Because in this day and age, I think a lot of people think about physical as just being a safe, are you physically safe? Were there any incidents of somebody getting hurt on the work job, job place? That's what people think about when they think about physical safety and the workplace. But I'd like to encourage all of us to unpack that and to really think about it more holistically. And so what I would argue that includes creating work environments for neurodivergent individuals, persons that are differently able, and trans individuals, because those are all physical safety issues as well that we may not think about. I may not think about those as an able-bodied woman, but our speaker last year, Nicole, did a great job of unpacking that. So thinking holistically, this is what the business world in America in 2023 is being told they need to start to think about and address. And all of us as being women in this space, we have the opportunity now to help bring these conversations forward. Next slide, Kimberly. We're going to now cover a couple quick definitions of key terms so that we're all on the same page as we move this conversation forward. The first one is equity. Equity in the workplace means to intentionally and purposely and consciously ensure that everyone in the company has access to the support, resources, treatment, and the opportunities they need to succeed in the workplace. I think this is incredibly important, making sure everyone has what they need to be successful in their job. Next slide. Intersectionality. You're going to hear a bit about that today. In a lot of cases, intersectionality is hard to define because intersectionality literally covers all of these different inequalities that exist that are based on race, gender, ethnicity, sexual orientation, gender identity, disability, class, and other forms of discrimination that intersect to create unique and dynamic effects. So when you're thinking today about these conversations, think about it from maybe a bigger picture of, it's not just that we are women. There's women and there's women of color. There's women who have maybe are not going to a formal college training program, maybe are returning citizens coming out of the correctional facility. So there's all these different ways of thinking about the intersectionality and how intersectionality of the individual with their gender together causes challenges, but also opportunities for us to help empower and help them to be successful. And then the last slide. Allyship. We're going to have a great conversation today talking about what allyship means. The definition I like is that allyship in the workplace means using your personal privilege to support colleagues from historically marginalized communities. Allies wield their influence to amplify the voices and elevate the employee experience for their underrepresented coworkers. So again, that could be in a whole bunch of different ways, okay? It is now my pleasure, next slide, Kimberly, to introduce my friend and neighbor, Monica Nakielski, who is the Vice President of Sustainability at Advocate Health. Monica, welcome to International Women's Day.
Thank you for having me. I just want to begin by echoing the sentiments that you have all stated today. First, it's an honor and a privilege to host this event with you, Jessie, Kimberly, Lisa, Corinne. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for these conversations as we've planned this event that have expanded my thinking about, I'll start by saying I'm very impressed with the women who've been introducing themselves, and your introductions left in the chat function have really started to spark some ideas, and looking forward to those breakout discussions. So as an INTJ, it's really uncomfortable for me to talk about myself, but I've been asked to share a little bit about my background. So I guess if we move on to the next image, I'm happy to, should I move on? Okay, off there. So I was thinking, how far back do I go? And I think it's important to share a bit about my history and my roots. So I was born and raised in Madison, Wisconsin, moved around the Midwest for some. I grew up here, moved to Boston for 20 years, which is part of my story. If we reflect on our paths, I don't know if anyone really truly has a linear path, but, it's a series of experiences and events that have shaped who we are, what drives us in our purpose, and why we may have been attracted to this field. And as I was asked a bit about my history and what got me into this field in general, I started to think back. All of my siblings are in impact. I would say in these areas of impact. My sister Leanna Nakielski, which some of you might know at American Family, she's in community impact. My other sister is on healthcare and healing with the mission. My brother's engaged in his religion. And I think, we're all here, central humans, and, taking different strategies to advance equity and just, the rights for all. We switch to the next page. Do you want me to do this? How do I advance? Thank you. To the next slide. I briefly, talked about growing up in Wisconsin, but many people don't know. My father's Polish American from West Allis, and my mother was born and raised in Guayaquil, Ecuador. That makes me half Ecuadorian. And, having traveled, we used to travel quite frequently to my mother's home country. And I talked about, my siblings and I, moving into this impact work. And I would say that much of it is based on those experiences that we gained in traveling throughout Ecuador. It was interesting to see the despair and the poverty, and children placing rocks in the road to earn pennies to bring home to their family to be used to purchase food. We were there and actively saw those upstream decisions that we were making and the downstream consequences on these marginalized communities. So as we talk about equity, and I would say the different dimensions, the intersectionality of our work and these various groups, it was really apparent loud and clear. This is a happier picture of a New Year's evening and New Year's and burning an Año Viejo and, burning away the old year and looking forward to the new year. And I view each day as an opportunity to do better, and as an opportunity to gain more insights and information, as we do better and lifting. Next slide, please. The next slide should be a picture of my partner Max, who was born and raised in Paris, France. So, you can see here we have a pretty international, global family thing going on. I don't know, where my kids will go in the future. I have two boys, but my partner Max, whom I've been with for 22 years, we met when we were really young, has enlightened me and opened up a new perspective about what it means to really support one another, what it means to be an ally and a parent, and creating equal opportunities. I would say, they talk about Europe being progressive, and I would say, at least in my experience, that's the case. And I wouldn't be where I am today without his love and his support, and allowing me to lean in on him and creating space to do what I want to do, and to hopefully do it well. But I would also say that the international experience that we've had has created a collection of approaches and philosophies that I would say have been woven into the way I live my life and conduct my work, and just really appreciate and value that diversity and perspective. So I met Max in that next slide coming up in Boston, Massachusetts. I talk about being born and raised in Madison. I left in 2001 for Boston to pursue a master's, ended up transitioning out of public health into an MBA, said I was never going to go back to healthcare. Never say never, ladies, because I'm back in a big, very large health system, which I just realized I forgot to introduce. This was our home right before we moved. We had gutted a home from 1863. Oh no, and I'm getting an internet connection unstable. So I'm going to take myself off video just for now. I'm talking until I can create some stability here. But
yeah, Monica, thank you. I just wanted to let you know we've received some feedback about that, and that's probably, I'm sorry if you're experiencing a delay in the slides. That's probably what's going on. So.
Oh, no problem.
Thank you.
Not a problem. Yeah, but we gutted a home from 1863, and in putting it back together, we leveraged our learnings from our work in sustainability to put it back together with what I believe are the healthiest, safest materials, wood floors, LED lighting. You can see our solar panels there generated more electricity than we consumed. And, we did our best to keep what was there and waited till things broke. But then also when we were making changes to pick the healthier, safer option. Spending 20 years in Boston has had a profound impact in who I am. I would say there's a different energy when you move to different regions. I would say that just in general, the opportunities when we start thinking about policy and legislation, I would say it started out in Massachusetts and California for a wide variety of reasons. But one of the things that living in Boston for 20 years taught me is, what do you do when you're living in the eighth most vulnerable city in the world? And that home was literally 3 blocks away from the waterfront, and we had to worry about flooding our neighborhood. And those experiences, are experiences we took with us as we defined and developed the strategies in our work, the collaborations across the municipalities, the state, and the region. And these are lessons learned that I've brought with me to the Midwest, which I realize are not readily applicable because we are in a very different place, and I'm excited about these learnings and moving forward. Next slide. Family. I imagine that you all are like we tend to be. We love spending time with each other, and most of the time we're spending that time outdoors. We're enjoying the earth. We love spending time on the water and going for hikes. But those are our two boys, and I don't know if this was gratuitous or what, but this was just a fun picture that warms my heart, as the next slide is. So these people are the reason that I put so much effort into what I do. And I imagine it's the same for you all. You know, I start with those people I love and the generations that follow. And we're all, you know, putting effort into this space, I believe, for the exact same reason and for one another. And I don't know, I feel silly talking about my boys, but if you can't tell, the oldest one is quiet and cerebral in nature and a rule follower, and the youngest has a equally big heart as the older one, but a very big personality if you couldn't tell by the faces. Next slide. And this I found, and it just, I love this picture. This was a picture of my boys and I at our CSA. We've been members of CSAs since 2007. Moving to Wisconsin was the first time that we didn't buy our produce, vegetables, fish, meat, and eggs directly from the farmers. You know, we take these life principles and try to instill them into our children. And this was part of the flower share, and they were helping me pick a bouquet of flowers. But, you know, we do what we can to take our learnings and translate those into actions for the boys, and, you know, hopefully not get on a soapbox too often for those that were around, but hope, you know, we talk about having a ripple effect, you know, and how we increase and create awareness. How do we drive perception? How do we make it easy? How do we make it fun? And this image was just a really special one of me, and a memory that we had during the pandemic, you know, when everyone was locked up, you know, taking those small moments and, you know, really being intentional about the time that we spent together and, you know, enjoying every minute. I had no idea where these pictures and where this story was going to go. I had bullets, which I didn't even follow. But, you know, what I did want to share was a little bit about my background and how it has shaped me. And so today, you know, I am fortunate. My formal title is Vice President of Sustainability of Advocate Health. It's a newly merged health system between Legacy Advocate Aurora Health and Legacy Atrium Health. Today, we happen to be the 5th largest not-for-profit health system in the United States, operating 67 hospitals and close to 2,000 sites of care across the states of Wisconsin, Illinois, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Alabama. I have a national system leadership role with regional teams below us. A lot of people are probably wondering, how does a hospital and a health system have this topic of sustainability, ESG, environmental sustainability embedded into it? But I think it's truly at the core of who we are and what we do in helping people live well, recognizing the interconnectedness. Earlier I mentioned between those upstream decisions, and that's for us to run hospitals and health systems, and the impacts that we're going to have on the environment, consequently human health, ensuring that we're not contributing to that, but really taking a proactive, holistic approach to health. And so with that, I'll just, you know, I'll stop and look forward to the questions and conversations.
Thank you so much, Monica, for sharing part of your story and your history with us. As I watched some of the comments, it was great to hear your why and why this work is so important to you. I love your perspective on just bringing in sort of international perspective to what we do in this work, and just understanding that we all come from different walks of life, but that our values really connect us. So just so folks know that what we're going to do now for the next 25 minutes or so is just kind of a Q&A. Lisa and I have some questions queued up for Monica, but we would also love to address any questions that you might have. So feel free to type questions in the chat if you have them, but Lisa and I will kick this off with the questions that we've already prepared.
Would you like me to start, Jessie?
Sure. Why don't you go ahead? I think yours is first.
So Monica and I had this conversation a while back. I don't remember if it was a year ago or not, but it was a while ago. And Monica and I had this. So here's a question. Let's unpack purpose in your role and how you have strived to empower others, so women, BIPOC individuals, to meet their individual purpose and passion within the workplace, because I know purpose is so important in your work.
Absolutely. So I don't know how, I would say this might be a blend of future questions. So I'm going to try to just hold back and focus on this. But I'm really lucky that today's topic is one that covers two issues I'm very passionate about. The first one is women's empowerment. And the second, and creating equity and space for women. The second is sustainability and driving social and environmental impact. And so from my perspective, I believe just in general, as a leader, as a manager, leverage strengths and manage weakness. And when I have been in conversations and when I have experienced or seen what I would consider moments of inequity, it's using my voice as a leader to address the issue. And I'll give you a couple of examples. So I don't want to name folks, but I'm going to speak generally about a situation in that I was engaged in a conversation recently and titles are important because we know that sometimes titles, and depending on organizational culture, comes with the different levels of expectations or can create barriers. But we were in a meeting with SVPs, VPs, directors, and managers. And most of the SVPs were men. I fell within the VP rung. Then all of a sudden, we get to the directors and the managers, and there were more women. And we're having this conversation, and one of the male SVPs spoke up, and I pushed back. And I pushed back out of curiosity, and I asked questions to understand, not because I was against it, but to hopefully expand the thinking, the group thinking, to always drive towards a better result. Out and said, I can't believe you spoke up. And I was like, what? Oh, unstable connection again. So I'm going to quickly turn this off. And I was like, help me understand this. She's just like, well, typically when this group of men is together, we just kind of let them do their thing. And I was like, well, things are going to be a little bit different. And you are a director and you are in this position because you add value, you have the experience, and that's my expectation. And, if there's anything I can do to help open those doors, let me know. So then I circled back and I reached out to a women's group that I'm aware of. And I introduced the women on our team to this women's group because for me, it was necessary to connect them to women leaders. So this women's group is led by our CIO, a woman physician who is the CIO, and holds quarterly networking events. And it's important for me and our team to have the resources and tools to not just earn the seat at the table, but to have that voice as well.
That's amazing, Monica. Can I just say, awesome job and good job modeling to the behavior. I think sometimes people forget that there are resources out there, and you're in a much larger company, so you have many more resources that your team has access to. And I think we forget, right, that we're all in this together, and there's folks who want to help us, right? So amazing job on that. That's awesome.
Yeah, and that was an internal resource. I feel like this conversation is another resource, and I really appreciate the conversations that you have, and appreciate the candor that of these conversations that we can have together, because I think that if we're not discussing it, like so many other women's issues, which right now are taboo. I mean, I could start going down the list, but if we don't discuss it, how are we ever going to know how to identify it, how to address it, how to make things different? So.
No, exactly. And I think having that shared language too around what is the issue, and then what possible solutions or key solutions to the situation are, I think is also very important, because again, we all come from different standpoints, perspectives, life experiences, right? We all have our own unchecked biases as well. So I think as a sociologist, I think it's really important to have those shared meanings and understandings with your team and with your colleagues, so that we can all advance together.
Yeah, I'll also say that one of the things I've started to push back on lately is this, I don't know how to describe it or define it, but I'll give some examples. So you had mentioned BIPOC women, and so I'm starting today's conversation defining equity between men and women, but we all recognize that there are these various dimensions, and of it all, we recognize that there are other elements that we need to address. And so when these conversations pop up at work, and they're like, how do we get more women, how do we get more BIPOC individuals, we can't find them. I've started to push back and to question, well, okay, wrong example, let me actually give you the true example. When I joined the organization, I had a conversation with someone who was introducing me to different folks in our system. We were running down the org chart, and as they were going through and identifying individuals, they would say, oh, well, this person moved on to go here, it was a man, and this woman went on to move here. But when we got to a Black woman, they made the comment that, oh, well, this person moved on, but, you understand, they're trying to fill, BIPOC women positions, diversity is hot right now. So to me, I took that, I was triggered. I'm half Latina. I identify as Latina and identify as Polish. And I was offended, and I was caught off guard. And I was ashamed for not speaking up, but it felt to me a bit like a microaggression, and that pops up every so often in conversation. And I stepped away from that conversation and committed to doing more. So when those types of things pop up, I now ask, I don't understand. Please tell me more. Explain to me what you meant by that comment. And because, there are qualified women, and just because you move or are hired into a position, I'm not very articulate now. Maybe it's because part of this conversation is uncomfortable, even, for myself. But I don't believe that it's based on because we're a woman, or because we have different abilities, or because we're LGBTQ. I think that if we've done a great job of creating a diverse pool, that we're going to find the best candidate with the experience, the capabilities, that passion, and that motivation.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing all of that, Monica, and your own experience through it. The follow-up question that I have kind of relates, and I'm also weaving in sort of a question that's being asked in the chat here, is just that it seems like folks want to know a little bit more about your path to leadership. And along that journey, if you could share a little bit about that journey, what have you learned along the way while you've cultivated your own leadership in terms of overcoming barriers to equity in the workplace?
Yeah. Oh, this one's big. This one touches upon other questions as well. So I would say, I have this nonlinear path. I was a management consultant following my MBA, and then I moved into sustainability consulting and then to being a business practitioner. And I bring that up because my first role as a management consultant happened to be with a small firm. I don't know if anyone's heard of the Balanced Scorecard. Maybe not. Okay, so I worked for Kaplan and Norton. Those were like the big bosses. And one of the founders ended up being my mentor, Jeff Fenwick, whose wife, Sandy Fenwick, ended up becoming Children's Hospital of Boston's next CEO for like, I don't know how many years. He was a very strong ally and advocate, and he was a mentor to me. He, early on, he called me out on everything from how I spoke, from how I walked the hallways, to remembering my notebook, to grabbing my jacket when I left, to acting as if, to starting meetings. He was a 63-year-old man, and I was in my late 20s when we started to work together on these projects. And he would come into the room and offer to get the drinks and the coffee for our clients, to put me into a position that they understood that I was the one leading the conversation. Would he, would we debrief afterward? He'd tell me everything I did wrong? Absolutely. But he also did everything right in giving me the opportunities to make mistakes and to learn from those mistakes, to coach, to guide, to mentor, to open doors that I didn't even realize he was opening. Until this day, I have that internal tape recorder of the act as if, he had a British accent. I can't do it, but act as if, Monica. And I was like, oh, you're faking it. And he's like, no. He's like, you don't understand. It's kind of like that concept, like look good, feel good, do good. Like if you start to act that next level, you will start to feel it and believe it in yourself. And this goes to my next point in the career. Take risks. As women, we don't take enough risks. I look back and reflect on my life, and there were so many risks I did not take for fear of so many different things. There's so many strong people out there. And I mean, just you're all here for different reasons, but take those risks. I was on a call yesterday with a friend, a sustainability colleague on the West Coast, who was telling me about a woman senior leader who was expressing male dominant qualities in her leadership style. And she's like, well, I'm thankful I'm down here, I'm sheltered and this and that. She's like, can you believe that she asked, just self-appointed herself sustainability officer? And I was like, hell yes, she should, because too many men will do that without the experience, without feeling that they have to have had succeeded multiple times in order to get there. We don't do that enough. And I think it's really important to take those risks. And if you fail, who cares? You learn from it. If someone tells you no, so what? It's no now, not no forever. And to go for it. I've lost track. I mean, there's so many different other things and other examples.
Well, Monica, I think it's so great. Like I tell people that a lot. I work with a lot of sustainability professionals, right? And it's like, start seeing yourself as an influencer, because if you don't think of yourself that way, you're not going to be able to influence decision-making. And that's part of what your role is as a sustainability leader, right? You are kind of bringing the new, you're bringing the new, you're leading in a new, you're ushering in a new culture, you're ushering in a new way of being, a new way of thinking in an organization, and you're going to expect opposition. Just learn to expect that and be okay with it and find the resources and support. And I had to learn that early on in my career. No doesn't mean no, it means not right now. Okay, not right now. Great. We'll come back to this conversation in 6 months or whatever. That was just sort of my motto. So I love that, that you bring that up. And also your example of allyship with that male colleague you were talking about, I thought was a really great example.
I'll also say, this wasn't asked, but what was interesting as we were preparing for this conversation, I reflected upon my career. Just this past year and a half, I had my very first woman leader in my career. And it didn't even occur to me that I hadn't had a woman leader until I had a woman leader, and just how different it was. And I can't, and I don't have an experience with, is it a male women thing, or was this her leadership style, the whoop that she carried? But she also happened to be the best leader of my career, and that you talk about allyship. She allowed me, to represent my work. She encouraged me. She created opportunities for me, and she gave me the platform to represent my work and put me in a position of power and influence within our Midwest region to connect with other leaders, and supported me. And, once again, do we all stumble, make mistakes, go through a discovery learning process? Absolutely. I feel like by saying that a couple of times, I don't make a ton of mistakes. I mean, I try to learn from them, but I'm just saying in general, like as we grow, we're going to stumble, and it's important to learn from them, and, having the right kind of environment and leaders to help you through that.
So I have a question from the chat as well, Monica, and this is really tied to what you just talked about, but it's kind of taking a step further. So as a woman leader or manager, can you speak to challenging or nudging your female senior leaders who sometimes feel as though they're functioning under an older leadership paradigm in a respectful and honoring way, while challenging the status quo that feels old and stifling? Because again, the world is changing, right? And it's changing tremendously around us right now.
Yeah.
So do you have any tools or strategies that you use to do that?
I use humor in a lot of what I do when I address uncomfortable situations. I try to blend in humor and make jokes, even if they're lame jokes, and I call myself up, I'm like, that was totally lame. But first off, I think it's important to respect these women who are where they are, because they had to operate in a very different environment and behavior that to where they are. So you can't blame someone for having that be ingrained in them, right? We all come to life with different experiences, triggers, trauma. And so, I tend to just embrace that and recognize, unstable again. I'm sorry, everyone. And I tend to, I recognize that and appreciate that, and, try to adapt my communication style to that and to them. And I have to be candid. I don't have any good examples. One, because I've always worked with men up until last year. And last year, Kathy Benderschwick, if anyone wants to seek her out, she didn't operate like that. And but I did have a VP of real estate during the time at Partners Healthcare, who, one of the ways that I built trust in a relationship was just being frank and candid with her. So here's an interesting story, and how I think I earned her trust. But during the interview process, I found out I was pregnant with my first child. Woo! So I was 8 weeks pregnant, and I remember I came home from the doctor's office. I had just completed my second round of interviews, and I was getting ready to meet this woman, VP. And I called up what would be my future boss, John Maservi, and my colleague, Hubert. And I was like, hey, I just need to let you know that I'm pregnant. I'm still interested in this position. But, I'm a very open, honest, direct, and candid person. And I put that out there. And they're like, well, first off, congratulations. That's wonderful news. Thank you for sharing that with us. We'd still like you to meet with the vice president. So these guys, but I freaked out before calling them, because one, I wasn't sure if they were going to consider me any further. And then two, I told myself, well, I better call, because I don't want to be a part of this organization if I can't have a family and I can't do this work. And so we moved forward, and I met with this VP, and she knew I was pregnant as well, and she did not have children herself. And we moved on. Within the first month of me joining, she's like, I'm really happy you're here. You know, what do you think so far? And I was like, I love the culture. You know, I'm thankful for the response to the pregnancy. And I told her, I was like, I wasn't going to work here if, you know, if that wasn't, you know, going to be accepted and embraced. And so we just kind of started off on this foot. We're like, huh, okay, you're really direct. I'm really direct. And then I would say from that moment forward, you know, just that was her communication style. That was her management style. And so it's a long-winded response example of just, I think it's understanding your stakeholder audience. And with the women, I mean, they might have taken on that persona for a wide array of reasons, and just trying, everyone enjoys a good joke. So
That's great. Jesse?
Yeah, no, I wanted to ask this question about sort of microaggressions that you brought up, because you brought that example and somebody was asking a question that says, I find that when these conversations come up, I also am shocked and don't know how to respond. How would you suggest working on being able to talk to people about this?
in addressing the microaggression,
Addressing the microaggression, right?
Well,
So
first off, it's understanding your environment. Are you in a safe, this is one of the things, like when this happened a year and a half ago, I was like, geez, I'm an adult woman. I was like, why did I cower? Why did I not say anything? And I felt really foolish. And then, you don't beat yourself up. Allow that as a learning experience. But I think it's important to recognize the situation. I wouldn't go so far as to be like a landscape analysis, but understand the situation, and are you in a safe spot? Because sometimes when you confront individuals through questions or direct confrontation, it might not create a safe environment, especially if you're within a larger group. So try to understand your audience as much as possible. And once again, I tend to use questions and humor as a way to get over the uncomfortable. I don't have tools and statistics in my pocket to lift and elevate, but I do tend to find that most people are good people, and that unconscious bias is real and it comes out. And I'll call myself out on my unconscious bias. It's real and it comes out. And you just have to help people. Don't beat yourself up, don't beat them up, especially if they're willing to learn.
That's a good advice, Monica. I think from my vantage point as a sociologist, it's very hard sometimes to have these uncomfortable conversations, but addressing them in an open and honest way, I think helps to diffuse the situation too. I think you're right about the asking questions, and a tool that I found is finding, again, going back to that shared meaning, finding something or a topic that we all have shared meaning on and working from that vantage point, because I feel sometimes it's kind of that old adage of, are you in a blue state or a red state? And it's like, well, Wisconsin, we're one big purple state. So the blue state, red state adage doesn't work here, versus in Boston, you're in a blue state, right? And so I think sometimes just finding that middle ground or shared point of agreement is a good place to start those conversations and asking those points.
Agreed.
Jesse, do we have more questions coming in, or?
Yeah, there's lots of comments and thoughts, and what I kind of wanted to ask. So coming up in about 5 minutes or so, we're going to transition to a moment of reflection and breakout groups. And our breakout groups are focused on sort of allyship and being authentically yourself. And so I thought we could take maybe the last 5 minutes to kind of talk about those things, and like what you already gave a great example of experiencing allyship. If you could just maybe, define a few key qualities that you think embody a good ally in the workplace, and how maybe we can embody that. And then also with that, how do we bring our full selves to work, right? How do we maintain true with integrity to who we are, to our values, to what we believe, as well as show up professional in leadership and sort of drive for change. I know that's a lot.
Okay, so well, let's first allyship. One thing we didn't touch upon was Boston's Women in Green. So I wasn't sure if that was going to come up in conversation, so I tried to keep that separate. But I would say I have always sought out circles that wanted to create equity amongst the genders. And when I discovered that Boston was creating a Women in Green program back in 2018, I was all over it. And one of the things I would say that we learned was there were plenty of women in sustainability, but not enough women in positions of power and influence. And so we committed to allyship of one another. And, you know, there are certain, you asked for qualities and defining them. And what I would say is it's recognizing the circumstances and maybe some of the different positions that we're walking into these conversations in. So Lisa, you had mentioned as an able-bodied woman and giving the example of someone who may have been, you know, may not have been fully able-bodied. I think it's within the LGBTQ community. If you are cisgendered woman, you know, in a heterosexual relationship, it's identifying that privilege that you come to the conversation with and ensuring that you are helping and opening doors. If you are a white woman, it is recognizing that sometimes your Black women and Latino women and Asian women come to the conversation with, you know, people's perceptions and stereotype of them might, you know, not fully align. And I mean, let's just face it, right? You know, just are different. So the first one is understanding the privilege. The second is making space, taking action. I think there are different ways that we can do that. But I personally like to be inclusive and value the diversity and perspective and do what I can to create that equity. You know, if somebody is more of an introvert, ask those questions to draw it out of them. If someone, you know, you name it. But so understanding your privilege, making space, drawing out the action, having that ripple effect with your peers, taking those lessons learned and committing to doing better. When we know better, we do better. So those are just some of like my top three. What was the second part of that? Because I know I started really back with Boston and the green, Women in Green. And the second part was, Jessie.
Yeah, the second part is showing up fully authentic.
Fully authentic.
True selves.
Well, it's interesting you asked that because I will go out there and say that I am not fully authentic in this conversation today. Well, I'm pretty open and honest. I'm coming at you with straight hair. I haven't fully embraced my curly hair yet. So I'm still on my journey to authenticity. But I think it's, you know, there's a situation in having a certain level of self-awareness and understanding the strengths and the value you bring. Remember, leverage your strength, manage your weakness. We all have value to bring to the table through these experiences. And, you know, take risks. You know, the worst that can happen is someone will say no. So, you know, coming up authentically, it's, you know, be yourself and you will find yourself in circles that embrace you. And, you know, trust your gut. So I'm not sure if that's really speaking to what, you know, you were hoping to get to. I feel, you know, a little bit funny because like I said, I'm not 100% authentic like Jessie and Kimberly and Corinne, who have their beautiful curls and waves going on. And, you know, I hope to be more like you when I grow up. And so.
Monica,
I love that. Absolutely.
And you're amazing. And you are showing up in an open and honest and transparent manner. And that's all we can ask for. And understanding and sharing who you are. Thank you for doing that because it's hard. It's hard to be open and honest and to show our, as you said, leverage your strengths and manage your weaknesses. So anything that you might consider a weakness, it's not. You're doing awesome. You're doing awesome work. You're one of my heroes. So thank you. Thank you for being honest with us.
I totally agree with all of that. I just want to say I've been trying to capture some of the resources that have come through the chat. So when I follow up with the email, I can send some of those out. If there's any other resources any of you have for the group, please go ahead and put those in the chat, because the chat will come through the recording on the Zoom. I don't know if it'll translate to YouTube. I'll work that out. The other thing I wanted to say is just, I was having an example in my head of how this authenticity piece comes up, right? I guess the only part I really want to add is that I have, in my career of the last 10 years, worked for organizations that were considered apolitical, meaning that I couldn't have any strong political stance in one direction or another, as a leader in the organization, because we had to maintain a certain level of inclusivity amongst all people. And so there's another layer of challenge with that in terms of showing up as your true authentic self, right? And in the same regard, I remind myself that it's important I'm authentic, and it's important that I'm inclusive. And those two things can coexist. And sometimes I have to seek support for the things that I can't seek support, maybe publicly with, because of my role with those who are close to me that I know, share my same values and whatnot. So that was coming up for me. Just wanted to offer and share that as well, because it's never as direct or black and white or as easy as we sometimes think it could be or want it to be.
I love it. And I don't mean, I'm going to jump in. I know you wanted to transition us, but I was going to say, if you ask each of us, you might see some emerging themes, but you're going to see some differences in, how we show up. And this is why I love these types of conversations, because I'm learning so much from you all as well. And so.
Great. Well, we are going to transition. I'm going to ask Kimberly if you could please reshare the slides. So what we're going to do for the next 45 minutes or so is spend time sort of discussing these themes, learning from one another, continuing to share. So before we do that, we're going to take a moment of pause, and then the next screen will share. I will be working on putting everyone in breakout rooms. We're shooting for about 6 women per group for about 20 minutes. We're going to do 2 rounds. That's sort of the logistics. I'll post the suggested questions. Hopefully you'll have a facilitator in your group. If you don't have a facilitator, if someone could kind of step up and sort of act as that facilitator to make sure you're sort of allowing those questions or kind of staying on track. We're just recommending you don't do introductions, but maybe do the introductions in the chat. So before we do that, we're going to take just a brief moment to pause and reflect, and Kimberly's going to lead us in that.
Perfect. I'm going to also take a quick moment to introduce myself. So I'm honored to be here in supporting this amazing group of women with this event. So I'm here representing both my company, Venture Forward, and I co-created an organization called Verte Collaborative, which is focused on resiliency building for sustainability professionals. So the key thing to know about me is that I function for the last few years, at least, as a leadership and resilience coach, as well as a strategic partner, facilitator, and consultant. And so as we pause here to reflect, I want to encourage you to recognize that our learning really only occurs once we create this space to instill and reflect upon what thoughts we're having, how it relates to us. And so we want to give you, we're just going to set a quick timer here, probably for a minute or two. We'll see if it starts to feel long. But I want you guys to reflect on all the amazing things that we're learning and honor the insights Monica's sharing, the fantastic insights and questions all of you have been sharing that we've heard from Jesse and Lisa. What are you learning today? And then how might it impact you in your life? What do you really want to take away from this? And if there's something that you're really curious about or want to explore further, feel free to bring that into your breakout rooms. We do have proposed questions and considerations for you to consider. But if there's something else burning, I encourage you to open up the dialogue and share it as your group. So we'll set a timer here and then we'll move into breakouts.
Hello, am I supposed to be in a breakout? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We're
Oh, okay. I wasn't
we're
sure if I was at the right place. Sorry.
You're in exactly the right place. We're pausing to give everybody a moment to kind of reflect on the content and insights
Okay.
that have been shared. And
Okay.
we'll invite you, or we'll give you a heads up about when you'll be sent into your breakout here.
All right. Sorry.
No problem. All right. Take another 15 seconds and wrap up whatever thoughts maybe you're jotting down or holding firm in your head. I should check with Jesse. Do you need any more time for the breakouts?
I believe so. If you could go to the next slide.
Sure thing.
Okay, I don't think this slide is going to translate into the breakout room. So what I did is drop them in the chat. So if maybe you could just copy and paste that and drop it into a document. I will also try to broadcast them. Essentially, like I said, we're going to try to have 6 to 8 people. Please use the chat for introductions. So the round ones, we're going to do 2 rounds. The first round is focusing on allyship. So the suggested questions are: what does it mean to be an ally to support equity? Who do you know that is a good ally? What makes him or her a good ally? And what could we learn from that example? And what are tangible ways you can be an ally or collaborator for other women? So that's the first round. I am going to randomly assign breakout groups.
And how much time, Jesse? Can we put a timer maybe in the breakout rooms too? Is that possible so they know? Or
oh, here we go. Okay, yes. We're going to do 25 minutes. Just give me, let's see here.
I might encourage us to do 20, so we have about 5 minutes to come back at the end. Otherwise, if we do 20, if both of them are 25, we might be tight on our time.
Great. Breakout rooms automatically close after 20 minutes. Got it. You will see a countdown for 60 seconds when it's 60 seconds.
Fantastic.
Let me just see here. There's actually turning out that some people had to drop off, and there's let me see here. So I'm just gonna do some rearranging here, and all right. So I'm gonna open these rooms, and go ahead and click join for the.
Jesse, are you going to tell us which ones we should go to?
I'm moving you. I just didn't have you automatically assigned, so I'm moving you right now.
Okay.
Just give me 1 second here.
This technology is amazing. All right, bye.
Bye.
Everyone for accommodating this. And as I navigate back to my notes. So I have to say that this has been a very wonderful program for myself personally today. I've really enjoyed the conversations and reflections and the breakouts and all the wonderful individuals that I met today, and how there was an obvious attempt for all of us to drop any walls and barriers and bring it, authentic selves there, and that we're all sort of learning in that space. And I can't speak for all the breakout rooms, obviously just mine, but the things that were shared were really lovely. So thank you for that. And it's just, this entire day has been thought provoking. I'm appreciative of Monica and the wonderful way that you presented yourself and the ideas tied to today. I'm feeling very proud of the work that all came together today, and what many of you don't see behind the scenes is that this program year after year for the last 6 years has been 100% volunteer driven. There are multiple hours that happen behind the scenes. We start planning next year's events like a month after the prior one ends, and no one's getting paid for this, and we're, we try to make this as accessible as possible and drop paywalls, and it's really wonderful to see this come to fruition in the end. So thank you all for being here today and helping us take the program to the next level, because really it's the participants that make this work. We set the stage, we give you the framework, we give you the teaser questions, but it's really you and your contributions, whether you're new to the topic or have a wealth of experience like the amazing Roz, who is in my breakout room. All of you are contributing incredibly valuable insights. So thank you for that. And now I've completely gone off script, but what I do want to say is that this is not going to be the end of the story and the interactions that we want to have with you this year. There are opportunities to connect both with Women in Sustainability, Be Local, and with the U.S. Green Building Council. Jesse, did you want to speak to this? Oh, I'm sorry. The thing with the Women in Green program is that we're going to do the polls now, right? Or is that later? That's now. We will be hosting an in-person gathering very similar to the one that we held in Madison last year. We're taking a little bit of a twist on it, though. We want to hold a retreat-like program for all of you to come and join us. And we're hoping to combine the idea of self-care being a necessity for strong women leaders and our ability to even bring our authentic selves, right? Like if we don't have the energy to do that, if we're not recharging our batteries, we can't. So we're going to try to do a program that might be 3 to 4 hours, and we want your feedback on if we're holding a 3 to 4 hour retreat style program that helps you connect to nature and do reflections like that. What would that look like? Like, when would you prefer that? Should we do that on the weekend? Should we do it during the week? And what are your preferences for those timeframes? So that's the poll that you see in front of you. We have been planning this program now with the help of several individuals, and Kimberly Flood has been my partner in crime on this, and we have some fantastic programmatic things that we want to bring to you. But we want to make sure that If we're holding a self-care program, we do not want it to be burdensome on your well-being. So please provide us some feedback. I think we are targeting the Milwaukee area. I will say that. Thank you, Alicia, for pointing out in the chat that it would be location dependent. We are targeting the target area, the Milwaukee area, and we are hoping that the vast majority of the program will be outdoors. So it should be hopefully a fun thing for everyone. With that said, thank you for doing the polls. We're going to take the responses of those and use them as we finalize the date and time, and please stay tuned as when we will announce the final location and time for that. So Jessie, would you like to talk a little bit more about the Women in Sustainability?
Yeah, I will leave the poll up. It looks like about 50% of you have filled it out. So I know it's sometimes dependent on what you have going on. So just, offer your best advice. We just, again, want to try to make it accessible and work for everyone. So, and we might end up doing 2. So we'll see. Okay, so I did just want to take a moment. I will kind of breeze through this because all this information is available on our Women in Sustainability website. But I just wanted to talk about the circles that we're launching as of today. So how the structure of those work. So let me just back up and say Women in Sustainability has grown out of the Wisconsin Sustainable Business Council Board of Directors. Really, it was Lisa and I probably 9 years ago now, really wanting to talk more about the social side of sustainability and not feeling like we had an avenue to do that or an outlet for that. And so we started Women in Sustainability as a way to just bring women across Wisconsin together with shared values to sort of increase inclusivity, to talk about these things that are harder to talk about, that are less common to talk about. We obviously care a ton about the environmental aspect, but this was sort of where we could talk about the social side. And thankfully that side has grown much more. When we talk holistically about sustainability, we always believed it did. And that's sort of catching up in mainstream now, which is wonderful. So the circle structure is essentially the groups are categorized by your preferences. So we place you sort of into groups based on your preferences. And then there's a kickoff meeting and a wrap-up meeting. And in between, each woman has a time and what we call what's the hot seat. That's only 30 minutes for each meeting. So it's kind of directed and pointed. So the woman in the hot seat brings her challenge, her idea, her topic that she wants to talk about, that she wants to share, that she might want advice or feedback on. And then the group offers support for that. This is our 3rd year launching these. And 1 year I was I was with all sustainability professionals. We focused very much on sustainability in the workplace. Last year, I was more of a combination of women, and we focused both on sort of more professional growth in addition to sustainability. So next slide, please. So this year, I've sort of tried to organize the circles by topic a little bit more. So what is your primary area of interest that you want to talk about or get some reflection on? So that's personal sustainability. Business sustainability would really be if you're a sustainability person in your job and you want to talk and get feedback on challenges you're having in the workplace or ideas for implementation of projects in the workplace, that would be what you wanted to select. Leadership development's more that sort of personal lens and looking and reflecting on ourselves and growing as leaders. Career development is if you're wanting to change your career, you're new in your career and you want advice on how to grow your career. Or interview or change jobs, that sort of thing. And business executive leadership is really focused only on those who have a leadership position. Either you're the founder, CEO of a company, or you're in the C-suite of an organization or in some sort of, vice president or director type of role. So that's looking at sort of leadership challenges specifically around sustainability. And then new this year is the book club. I tried to launch a book club last year over summer and just schedules fell apart and nobody was available at the same time. And I started reading this book. I'm only a quarter in, but this was the suggested book. If you want to do a book club, please, by all means, bring your ideas about the book club. I do have to say Nina Simmons is a co-founder of Bioneers. She's one of my go-to leaders. I started reading this book and it's really, really fantastic. It's just about how we can embrace our femininity, but also new ways of being as leaders in our culture today and creating cultures of all of the things we're talking about, inclusivity, understanding, empathy. So it's just a really fantastic book. So those are the circle topics. Next slide, please. We do ask that you sign up by the end of March. I'll go ahead and drop those in the chat next so that you have those links and they'll go out in the email as well. Next slide. I also am the director of the Wisconsin Sustainable Business Council. So just want you to know that if you're not currently a member, we support sustainability professionals and businesses on your sustainability journey through education, through our Green Masters program tool, through connection, and we're playing Cool Choices coming up in April. So if you're not currently a member, we invite you to join. Next slide, please. You can find our upcoming events on our website at Wisconsin Sustainability Upcoming Events. I'll also drop that in the chat, but just wanted to highlight that we're launching our new Green Masters program this year. So our webinar Materiality and Priority Setting in March next week actually sets you up for that. And then we'll kind of talk more about that in April. And then, like I said, we're playing Cool Choices as a member group in April. Next slide. I think that is all from me.
Be Local Wisconsin will be hosting our second JEDI series program called Tied Recruitment and Retention for the 21st Century Workforce. It's a virtual training occurring on March 21st from 2 to 4:30 p.m. I put information in the chat about it. I would love to have anybody who's attending today consider going to this training. It's going to be wonderful and will be led by August Ball from Cream City Conservation, certified, our first Wisconsin Black woman-owned certified B Corp. So super excited for that. And August has been a previous keynote speaker at our International Women's Day program. I want to say 6 years ago for was it our first year? So anyway, she's amazing and she does a great job with training. Next slide. I think it's you, Kimberly.
I'm getting some version of an error, like of a PowerPoint issue. Sorry about that. Let me see why I can't flip. Oh my gosh, it's like verification of the link failed due to error. Skip verification, it won't let me go.
Why don't you share with us what would have been on the slide?
Okay. Yes, happy to. Oh, here, there's something else here. Are you seeing it now?
Yes.
Oh, it's me. I'm the problem. Just real quickly, your CBC as a whole, we're hosting events both digitally and in person throughout the year. I strongly suggest that, especially those of you who had expressed a desire to connect with other building professionals, there are some really wonderful ways to do that, not only with Wisconsin professionals, but regional and national. These are just a couple of the ones that I highlighted that are digital opportunities. Our emerging professionals group is an outstanding program. If you're a young professional or a mentor that wants to align and assist, I would really love it if you would reach out and talk to me about that, because we're recruiting right now. And the link is on the bottom here. I'll drop it in the chat as well, so that you have that. And the last thing I will say is, if you would like to stay apprised with what happens with your GBC, especially in Wisconsin, please sign up for our newsletter, and I will drop that in the chat as well.
Oh, there was the poll. Okay, so this we'll drop a chat. It's in the resource file too. This is a group coaching program we've been leading since 2020. We started amidst COVID. We're on cohort 6. We typically offer this twice a year. I believe there are some folks who were on today that have participated in the past. Encourage you to consider joining us. This is the organization that I co-founded with 2 other amazing women, and we're all about trying to provide access to professional coaching for impact workers, and really desiring to create this opportunity of support for both personal and professional development. And ultimately, this is about all of us are facing a lot of challenge in the world, and we want to help support you in thriving. So another opportunity and resource. And I know we're over on time. So I appreciate everybody hanging on. And I don't know, Jesse or Lisa, Corinne, any final thoughts?
I think we should everybody come back on screen, take a group shot so we can post it to social media with a heart or whatever symbol we feel about today's program.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you could stop share. Okay, come off camera if you're willing. Lisa, I'm going to ask you.
Yep, I'll take the picture. I'll take the picture.
Okay. And then there are the reactions if you want to do a reaction.
Hang on, I want to make
do
sure.
a 1, 2, 3, Lisa.
Yep, just
then-
yep, I will. Hand. I'm doing it. All right, so everyone hit your reaction right now. And then Lisa's gonna set up a picture. Okay, I'm going quick. Okay. Everybody smile. All right, we'll do it again. Okay, perfect. Make another reaction. Okay, second picture. All right, everybody smile, happy, love, hearts. Yay. All right, yay, thank you. I will be sharing this on LinkedIn today. Oh, no, is there a second page? Did I miss anybody? I hope I didn't miss anybody. There is a second, no, there's not. Monica, I have my entire screen up. So like, I've got like, whatever, 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 5 rows of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people on my screen. Woo! Thank you all for being with us today. We appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you all for sharing your insight. So happy to have you as part of our community. I know Jesse and I and Kimberly and Corinne look forward to working with you throughout this next year, the additional programming that's coming up. Monica, thank you again so much for being with us and sharing your knowledge and your insight, and just for being awesome and being Monica. We appreciate you. And everyone else is here. Thank you.